Haridas Takur's place, where he did the bhajan. We are in Pulna now. Pulia. So we are on this auspicious day of Ekadasi in the holiest place of Dham, in the presence of Haridas Takur. We'll be able to spend some time in chanting the holy name. Before that, we'll hear from Maharaj Katha, as well as some bhajan kirtan from Asakisha Prabhu, and then we can happily chant till 12:45. Okay? Anything else? Very nice. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. So we'll enjoy the kirtan now.
Vanchakaupatarubhyasya Vipasindurvaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasati Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Haridas Takur came here because he'd made a vow that every day he must chant the holy name 3 lakhs. 3 lakhs means 192 rounds. So he didn't have time to talk to people. He didn't have time to give blessings to people. People would all come, they want to disturb him. So he wanted to just chant the holy name. He just wanted to be alone with the holy name. So he came here to this place, and just there's a cave. There was a cave before. He used to live in the cave, and he would chant the holy name. But still people would criticize the nature of the material world, Kali Yuga. People speak. You try to do something good, they'll criticize you. And so Haridas Takur, he just wanted to chant the holy name, but people would criticize him. One Brahmana told him, where in the scriptures does it say that you have to chant the name loudly? You're supposed to chant the name in your mind. You're not supposed to chant the name out loud. This foolish Brahmana said like that to Haridas Takur. He was criticizing because Haridas used to chant loudly. He would chant out loud. The people didn't like it. And this Brahmana, he said, you're chanting the name. This is not according to scripture. You're supposed to chant in your mind, softly. But Haridas Takur quoted from the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a verse there in the chapter which is entitled The Liberation of Vidyadhara. Vidyadhara is a higher planet of the Devas, and there was a demigod there called Vasudeva, the Vidyadhara Vasudeva. He had been cursed to become a serpent. And so it happened that one time Nanda Maharaj was observing Shivratri, and that serpent began to swallow Nanda Maharaj. And Nanda Maharaj was calling out, help! Krishna! Krishna! Save me! Whenever it's in trouble, devotees will always call to Krishna. And the other Brajbasi cowherd men, they came, they had burning logs, and they tried to burn the snake. They couldn't get the serpent to release Nanda Maharaj. So then Lord Krishna came. And Lord Krishna came and just touched him with his feet, with his toes. He touched, and immediately that serpent became the Vidyadhara Vasudeva. And he explained, the Vasudeva explained what happened, how he had been cursed for some offense. And he went on to glorify, he went on to speak about the holy name. He said, what to speak of being touched by the lotus feet of the Lord? Simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can be liberated. By chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, we can be liberated. So that verse, this was Haridas Takur, he explained like this, it's mentioned there in Srimad Bhagavatam, that the loud chanting of the holy name can deliver a person from all sinful reactions. Haridas Takur also said, who is better? One who can maintain one person, who only takes care of himself, or someone who can maintain 100 people? Is it better to just maintain yourself, or is it better to maintain 100 people? So Haridas Takur used this logic to say to the Brahmana, if I just chant in my mind, that's good for me, but it doesn't do any good for anybody else. But if I chant loudly, then everyone who hears, they can all be benefited. Srila Prabhupada told us, there was one devotee, he opened a temple in one city in the USA, and he said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, nobody's coming. He said, just chant, there are many living entities everywhere. Let them hear the holy name. Even the insects, the ants, everything, they all benefit by hearing the holy name. I was telling yesterday about this one Babaji who was there in Jagannath Puri, and he was preaching, don't chant the holy name. Don't chant, just chant in your mind. And he gave his followers another mantra to chant. So this is, you get this, all these nonsense philosophies. So Haridas Takur was a victim of that. This one man was criticizing Haridas Takur. When Haridas Takur went to the home of Haranya and Govardhan Majumdar, one was the father of Raghunath, one was the uncle of Raghunath. So they kept the fact. Why so much interference? What is the static? They question. They questioned Haridas. Haridas came to visit the house there, and the family had a smarter Brahmin who was the family priest. So the family priest did not like Haridas Takur, because Haridas Takur was born in a Yavana family. He was a Mohammedan, and this person was a smarter Brahmin. So he thought, why they respect this Yavana? He only thought about the birth, he didn't see the qualification of Haridas Takur. So he said to Haridas, he said, how do you get liberation? And Haridas Takur said, simply by even a glimpse of chanting the holy name, one can be liberated. Haridas Takur said, even you chant the holy name at Namabas. Namabas means the intermediate level, the shadow of the name. He said, that can liberate you. And the Brahmana got really upset and angry. No, cannot be how you can get liberation so easily. So the smarter Brahmins, the Gyanis, their goal is to get liberation. And they have to endeavor for many lives to get liberation. But Haridas Takur was saying just a glimpse of chanting the holy name can liberate one. So the Brahmana said, if I can get liberation so easily, then my nose will fall off. So Haridas Takur said, yes. Haridas, if I don't get liberation so easily, my nose will fall off. And what happened was that Brahmana became victim with leprosy, and his nose melted and fell off, and he had to leave. And the family threw him out of the house. They said, you've offended a great devotee. We don't want you to serve in our house anymore. Get out. We don't want your service anymore. And in 3 days he got leprosy. He had to go and live with all the lepers. He had to go out of the city, go out of the town, and go and live away from the people, because leprosy is very easily spread to other people. So that shows the power of Haridas, that people who criticized him, anybody criticized Haridas, they would suffer, they would get severe reactions. Haridas didn't have any bitter feeling to them, but the Lord does not tolerate offenses against his pure devotee. Krishna can tolerate offenses against himself, but he cannot tolerate offenses against his devotees. He offends his devotees. We gave the example, you can tolerate the heat of the sun on the head, but not on our feet. The hot ground becomes unbearable. Even you can tolerate the sun on your head, but very difficult to tolerate the heat on your feet. So the devotees take shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. So you offend a devotee, it's like an offense against the lotus feet of the Lord. Krishna will not tolerate. So Haridas Takur was living here, and there was a cave, and sometimes some people would come to visit him. Some people would come, even though he was living in the cave. But they told Haridas that please move to another place, because there's a snake in here. There's a big poison snake. And they could smell the poison from the snake. It was a big cobra, very poisonous. And they said, if you move to another place, it will be much better. We feel very worried for our safety and for your safety. So Haridas Takur, he said, if there is a snake here, then I will leave. If there is a snake here, I will leave. Or the snake can leave. We cannot both stay here. And so, within a minute, they saw this big snake crawl out of the cave and go out. And all the people who were sitting there with Haridas, they all witnessed how that snake left the cave. And Haridas could remain in the cave and chant the holy name. So this is the glory of Haridas Takur, that he could continue his chanting without disturbance. Because the Lord is in the heart of the snakes. And so the snake also took the instruction. He didn't want to disturb Haridas, and so he left. And Haridas could remain and chant the holy name. So this is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, among other reasons, this is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made Haridas the Nam Acharya, our Acharya in the chanting of the holy name. That throughout his life he chanted 3 lakh names. Even when he was a young man, he was tested by the personification of Maya Devi. Maya Devi came in the form of a very beautiful young woman, and Haridas Takur initiated her into the chanting of Hare Krishna. Then another time, there was a prostitute hired by an evil-minded man, and the prostitute her intention was to seduce Haridas, but Haridas made her into a devotee. She was saying, Haridas will chant my name in a day. After he's been with me, he will chant my name. But Haridas made her into a devotee, and she he told her, go home, give away everything and come back. And she went home, she gave away everything, she came back, and Haridas gave her his place. He said, now you stay here and chant the holy name, and Haridas left. So this is something of the pastimes of Haridas Takur, such a wonderful devotee. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Jagannath Puri, then he lamented that how will I get association? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him that you can also come to Puri. So Haridas also came to live at Jagannath Puri, and he lived on the beach. He couldn't go into the temple, but he lived on the beach. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu every day would come and give him prasadam. And it was there on the beach at Jagannath Puri that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had big kirtans, and at that time Haridas left his body, and Lord Chaitanya picked up Haridas Thakur's body and then put him into samadhi. And his samadhi is there on the beach at Jagannath Puri. And then Lord Chaitanya personally arranged a big festival in his honor after his departure. They went begging in the marketplace and got so many provisions, and they made a big feast and distributed prasadam for everyone in honor of Haridas Takur. So we are remembering the pastimes of Haridas Takur. He liked to chant the holy name, he liked to dance in the kirtans. He was a wonderful devotee. And he was from the Muslim family. But sometimes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu referred to him as Brahma. That he was actually, Haridas Takur was the incarnation of Brahma. But sometimes we also say it's the incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj, who came to take part in the pastime. He didn't want to remain. He knew Lord Chaitanya was going to leave the world soon, so he begged Lord Chaitanya, let me depart from the world before you leave. And so it happened that Haridas Takur could give up his body in the presence of all the devotees and in the midst of kirtan. So this is all described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Hare Krishna. Srila Haridas Takur ki.
Shall we do some kirtan? Round up.
No. क्या नाम? नहीं वो नहीं बजाएगा। आज कौन है? हाँ बजाएगा। बुलाइए कौन है?
Radha Krishna Bol. Radha Krishna Bol. This is a song by Takur Bhajan, Radha Krishna Bol. It's all about Mahaprabhu's style of preaching Krishna consciousness all over Nadia. You can see the song Radha Krishna Bol.
Radha Krishna Bol Bolo Bolo Re Shobhai Radha Krishna Bol Bolo Bolo Re Shobhai Ishikariya Shobnadiya Pirchene Segoni Thai Shobnadiya Pirchene Segoni Thai Radha Krishna Bol Bolo Bolo Re Shobhai Krishna Das Ei Vishas Kole Toa Tukanai Ei Vishas Kole Niche Maya Boshe Jacho Deshe Acho Hobo Dubu Bai Niche Maya Jacho Deshe Acho Hobo Radha Krishna Bol Bolo Re Shobhai Ei Vishas Kole Toa Tukanai Ei Vishas Kole Toa Radha Krishna Bolo Shunge Chalo Ei Matru Pika Chai Radha Krishna Krishna bolve jabe kulla khove jodve anki bole dai Krishna bolve jabe kulla khove Krishna bolve jabe kulla khove jodve anki bole dai Krishna bolve Radha Krishna Bol Bolo Bolo Re Shobhai Radha Krishna Bol Bolo Re Shobhai Jai Shakar Vipol Bhakti Vinod Bole Joton Sonam Gai Bhakti Vinod Bole Joton Sonam Gai Hare Krishna Krishna
Gauranga Gaura Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Haridas Takur Bhajan Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pujani Nirvishesha Shandavari Paschapta Desha Ebe Shuno Haridas Takur Kotar Jaha Shravane Krishna Poile Shargota. Oh, listen. Shuno. Ebe Shuno Haridas Takur Kotar. The glories of Srila Haridas Takur. Jaha Shravane, those who hear these descriptions. Krishna Poibe Shargota. They certainly will attain the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. This is the chapter, there's several chapters in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Antolila, Haridas Takur's passing away. There's 2 chapters devoted entirely to Srila Haridas Takur. Antolila, Haridas Takur's departure and glories of Haridas Takur. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adi Khanda, 16th chapter, glories of Srila Haridas Takur, which describe events that occurred at this sanctified place of Pulia. Oh, Bhakta Brinda, would you like to hear some of these descriptions? From the lips, from the words, from the writings of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, which, if you carry on in our programs over the next few days, we're going to where? Denur, where Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. This is Adi Kanda, 16th chapter, the glories of Haridas Takur, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Bhutan Gramete Avartirna Haridas She Bhagwa She Shabde She Kirtan Prakash. He appeared in Bhutan, which is in East Bengal, now Bangladesh, near Joshore, also where Rupa and Sanatan appeared. Avartirna Haridas She Bhagwa She Shabde She Kirtan Prakash. And because of his appearance there, the chanting of the holy name amongst all of the residents was Prakash, manifest because of his appearance there. So that's, as I was asking on the way with the driver about the distance, the border of Bangladesh is 60-70 kilometers from here, at Benapole. And then about 2 hours drive, you go to this Burdhan, Joshua district, where Haridas. So from there, let's read a couple of verses from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Let's describe him coming from there to here. It's very interesting what's mentioned. Haridas jabe nij grihe tyag koilo Benapole bon mothe koto din rohilo. Giving up his place of birth, he went and remained in Benapole. That's on the border of India and Bangladesh. There is temple there also. We have Haridas Takur. And Prabhupada went there and they gave that temple to Prabhupada, Haridas Takur. And then over the border is Benapole. So it's interesting that as Maharaj was explaining, Haridas Takur was victimized. He was attacked in 2 occasions. This time in Benapole, you know the story with the Ramchandra Khan, the envious landlord of that area, who sent the prostitute to try to. He was envious of Haridas Takur's. Maharaj was explaining very nicely. He wasn't a political person, Haridas Takur. He was simply chanting the holy name, but he acquired so many followers. And this is a source of great pain to the materialists. So much followers, so much appreciation, so much respect is shown to this low-class person and not to me. So let me publicly humiliate and humiliate. His respect will be reduced. So here's what mentioned it. Nirjan Bone, Kutir Kore, Tulashi Shebon, this is in Benapole on the border. Nirjan Bone, alone in the forest, Nirjan Bone. Kutir Kore, building a small hut. Tulashi Shebon, he worshipped Tulasi Devi. Ratri Din, Tin Lok Nam Shankirtan. Ratri Din, night and day, Tin Lokha. 300,000 names, Nam Shankirtan. So that's interesting, as we were hearing that even before, what we saw in Shantipur, it mentions that Srila Advaita Thakur, he initiated Haridas Takur, and there's a temple there. However, even before reaching Shantipur, this is halfway, he was already chanting 10 lokha, 300,000 names a day, and he was also referred to as Haridas. He was also referred to as Haridas. Kotadin Takya, Oilo Ganga Tide, Ashia Rahila Pulia Shantipure. So he stayed there for some time. And then he came here, Ashia Rohila Pulia Shantipure. Mentioned. Same name from that time. Shantipur and Pulia, same names from 500 years ago. And now Vrindavan Das Thakur, he describes some of the features of Haridas Takur. Would you like to hear some of that? Bishoy Shukete Birakter Agragonno. Bishoy Shukite Birakter. He was completely detached from sensual pleasure. Bishoy Shukite Birakyat Agraganna means extremely senior and advanced in detachment from sense enjoyment. Krishna Name Puripurna Sri Bodhan Dhanna. Krishna Name, all the time his words were Krishna Nam. And in this way, Dhanna, his mouth was so beautiful. So beautiful. Because it was always, he wasn't even talking marriage mention, he wasn't giving blessings, just Krishna Nam, constantly. So it was so attractive. Never for a moment did he feel any apathy or any, what would you say, laziness towards chanting. You know, sometimes we get, another 4 rounds to go. Even chanting many years still, another 6 rounds to go. We think like that sometimes. It takes a while to... He never ever thought like that, or never ever felt like that. Was always attracted to chanting. It was never anything which was like a burden for him. Sometimes he would just dance here in this place where his cave. He would just dance, cry in lamentation, and sometimes he just lay still, as though unconscious. Sometimes he spoke in mysterious languages, alokik shabda, different language, mysterious languages. He spoke. And then he explained the meaning of those, of what he spoke. So all the ecstatic symptoms, profuse crying, horripilation, laughing, fainting, perspiring, etc., they were manifest. Particularly mentioned when he was doing kirtan. Prabhu Haridas Matra Nritya Prabeshile. When he began to dance, Matra means only. Means that just by dancing, just when the kirtan would begin, Shokol, Ashiye, Tar, Shri, Vigraha, Mile, all of those symptoms would manifest in his body. Horripilation, crying, fainting, perspiring, laughing. Just when he, Nritya Prabeshile, when he began to dance. There's a nice story there. He was the snake charmer. That story is there, the snake charmer. And when he was hearing the glories, Ananta Shesh was speaking through the snake charmer's mouth, the glories of the Lord. And when Haridas Takur heard that, he became overwhelmed and began dancing. And everyone stopped, the snake charmer stood aside and they all watched. One envious Brahmin, so many envious Brahmins attacked Haridas Takur. At least 4, 5, 6 envious Brahmins said, what is this, this low-class person? It's very educational, Haridas Takur's pastimes, in terms of the Goswami Siddhanta, in terms of the principles of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. It is not about birth, it's not about position, it's not about caste, it's not about the jati, the nation, the culture. Everyone is qualified and everyone is eligible and everyone can achieve success, even from the most degraded. It's a principle. And Haridas Takur, so many Brahmins become envious of him. And this Brahmin, he began to dance. So let's see, they showed him so much respect. If a Brahmin like me dances, then it'd be so much more respect. So he began dancing, and then the snake charmer began beating him. So that's a nice story. And then they were asking, why are you Haridas Takur? So people would gather, this is very interesting, people would gather around to see these symptoms of Haridas Takur. You can imagine in this area here, many people will gather to come and to see him. To see the unrestricted tears of love of God which drenched his entire body. Now, he's chanting 10,300,000 names, he's completely absorbed, he's not preaching as such, he's not strategically planning, but people are coming. His bhajan is there, he's come to chant the holy name, but he preaches. Many examples where he'll speak and quote Shastra, even though he's not a Pandit or a Brahmin, he'll quote Shastra. And already thousands of people were attracted to Haridas Takur and they're following him, even before Mahaprabhu appeared. This is even before Mahaprabhu appears, this Leela, because we heard Maharaj said that when Mahaprabhu appeared, Haridas Takur and Advaita Takur were in Shantipur and they were dancing and chanting the holy name. Now when Haridas Takur was residing here before he went to Shantipur, before he started associating with, so he was already preaching and already attracting a following even before Mahaprabhu had appeared. So therefore, after Mahaprabhu's Bal Leela in Navadip, after his Vidya Leela, we'll discuss more about Chaitanya Bhagavat in Benu. Bal Leela is there, and then the Vidya Leela, his scholarly pastimes, and then he goes to Gaya, he comes back, and then he's changed, Sankirtan, there begins the Sankirtan Leela in Shrivashangan in Navadip, and then only after that he begins the preaching. And who does he anoint as the principal preachers? Shuno Shuno Nityananda, Shuno Haridas, Shabatra, Amaralkai, Kodaho Prakash. All this in Nitya, he calls. That day, all of a sudden, the devotees weren't going out and doing Sankirtan. Nityananda and Haridas, Amaralkai, Kodaho Prakash, Sabatra. You go and you spread my teachings everywhere. Prati Gore Gore Giye, Kodo Epika, Bola Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Kodo Krishna Shikha. So Haridas Takur, anointed by Shachinanda, he's the principal preacher. He's the foundational preacher of our movement. Haridas Takur, Shuno Shuno Nityananda, Shuno Haridas, Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Takur. It's not that when after he came here, Shantipur, associating with Advaita Thakur, and then going to Mayapur, it's not that the people, they ceased to gather around him. Is it that he stopped chanting 3 lakhs a day? He was, in Mahaprabhu's Leela, he was still doing that, and still people were gathering around. So naturally, he was already empowered. And then Mahaprabhu, now you preach. That's why he called Haridas, because already he was so empowered to spread the holy name. And then Nityananda Prabhu, Harinama Pradam Devam, the deity of giving the holy name. Puliya Gramete Jota Brahman Shakal. All of the Brahmins in this area here, it's not far from Shantipur, Advaita Thakur. This is a very aristocratic, even now, Shantipur in Bengal is considered very aristocratic for Brahminical culture and Bangla and literature, poetry, Shantipur. Even now, Bangla, the Shantipur Bangla. So from that time, this is a very aristocratic area, Brahmins and Pandits and Dharma and these things. Shakal Brahmana. Puli Gramete Jota Shakal Jota Brahman Shakal. All of the Brahmins that are in this area. Shabai Tahane Deki Hoilo Bibal Singh. When they would see him, they'd all become astonished. Shabai Tahare Bodo Janmila Bishash. And they all developed great faith in Haridas Takur. All of the aristocratic Brahmins. Janmilo Bishash. Puliya Rohilen Prabhu Haridas. Puliya Rohilen Prabhu Haridas. When he was residing here in Puliya, all of the aristocratic Brahmins in this area took shelter of him and had great faith in him. So he lived here peacefully. Ma Ganga was somewhere here because it mentions he was bathing 3 times a day in Ma Ganga. So at that time again, the local mogul magistrate became envious. Again, Benopal and then again. So he says to the local Kaji, just like in Mayapur we have the Chand Kazi. So the local, another Kaji in this area, local magistrate, Kaji. So he's feeling this envy toward Haridas Takur. So he contacts the Nawab. It seems to be the Nawab Hussain Shah, because how many other Nawabs are there? There's Nawab, he's the man, Nawab. So Nawab Hussain Shah is here. So anyway, whether they go there or maybe Nawab was touring, but they have a court. They take he talks to the Nawab, because the Nawab's palace is in Nalda, Ramkeli. That's a long way. But whether they went there or else the Nawab came here. But anyway, so they imprisoned Haridas. And of course, Haridas was, he was not concerned about that. And he was preaching. He began the jail preaching. Haridas Takur, the founder of jail preaching. Yeah, he was preaching to them in the jail when they Anu Ajanu Lombita Bhuja Kamal Nayan. They're describing when they saw the prisoners. His arms stretched down to his knees. Kamal Nayan, his eyes were like lotus petals. Shara Manohar Mukha Chandra Anupam. His face was so beautiful. His lotus eyes, his charming moon-like face enchanted everyone. And he began preaching to the prisoners. It's described quite detailed preaching there. And then he was brought before the Nawab. Ati Manoharer Tejo Dekia Tahan Parama Goudave Boshi Badi Dilostan. When he came before the Nawab, Oti Manohateja Dekia, the Nawab saw the Oti Manohateja, his extremely attractive effulgence. Oti Manohateja. Parama, and therefore Parama Gaurave, with great respect, the Nawab stood up. Boshi Badi Dilostan, and he offered Haridas Takur a place to sit. And then began, there's this discussion that, you know, you've had the good fortune to be born in a Mughal family, but you behave like a Hindu. We don't even touch rice, which is cooked by the Hindus. How do you expect to attain the platform of liberation if you behave like this? You should recite the Chaha Kamla. That's a part of the Quran where you accept. You're saying that there's this Kamla Ucharan. You should Arabic, the word or statement, passage from passage from the Quran indicating acceptance of the Mohammedan Islam religion. You should recite this. So Haridas Takur, would you like to hear Haridas Takur's response to this? So he sat there and he listened. And then he said that, my dear sir, Bolite Lagila Tar Madur Utor Shunubab Shabare Ek Ishwar Shunubab. Oh, listen, father, Bab, listen, sir, Shunubab Shabare Ek Ishwar. There is one God, there is one Supreme Lord. Bolite Lagile Tar Madur Utor. His sweet response. Nam matro bhed. Hindu jabone. Nam matro bhed. Hindu jabone. There's only the difference in the name. Paramartha ek. Kohe. Quran Purane. Paramartha ek. Kohe Quran Purane. This is, again, Haridas Takur, founder of interreligious dialogue. Founder of interreligious dialogue. He says that Paramate Ek, it's the same God which is described Kohe, Quran, Purane, in the Quran and in the Puranas. Ek Shuddha, Nitya Vastu, Akhanda Abhyay, Paripunno, Hoilo Varshe, Shavai Hridai. The same, he says that the pure, non-dual, eternal, inexhaustible Lord sits in the heart of all beings. The same Lord sits in the heart of all beings. She Prabhu Nam Gun Shakal Jagate. All over the Shakal Jagate, all over the universe, She Prabhu Nam Guna. She Prabhu Nam Guna. That Prabhu's name and qualities, Shakal Jagate, all over the universe, Bolen Shakale Matro Nija Shastra Mote, is described in all the different varieties of Shastra. That same Prabhu's name and qualities. His inter-religious dialogue, you could write a whole PhD on this. Just a few verses from Chaitanya Bhagavat. And then he concludes, Mahashai, Tumi Ebe, Korho Bichar, Jodi Dosh Take, Shashti Korho Amar. So, great Mahashai, oh respectable sir, you consider this. To me, Korho Bichar, you consider what I've said. Jodi Dosh Take, and if I am an offender, if I have done something, then certainly you can punish me. And the point was that even though the Nawab was very respectful, the local Kashi was saying it's an insult. It's a public insult to us. We cannot tolerate that. We cannot condone. We cannot allow him to act like that. If we do that, then we're minimizing the respect of our religion. So we have to publicly punish him. So then they called upon the sentries, the heavy, strong-armed men, And they came, and the big, and Haridas Takur, this, you can imagine, they took him. They took it. The order was to have him beaten in 22 marketplaces, and then we'll see if, according as he says, that the same Ishvara, this great realized philosopher, if it's what is true, what he says, then the Ishvara will protect him. Let's see. And then they began beating in the first marketplace, and then to a second. Any normal person wouldn't even sustain their life after the first beating. And then from one marketplace to another, they're taking him. Haridas Takur simply remembering the holy name of the Lord. Therefore, Mahaprabhu referred to him as Prahlad Maharaj because of his remembrance. We consider him incarnation. Prahlad Maharaj because of his constant remembrance of the Lord, even under such extreme circumstances. Before that, the Haridas Takur says they're saying that the Nawab is saying just preach from the Quran, and then that's all we want. That's all we have to do. Just preach from your own scripture, and then we'll be satisfied. And stop this chanting. And then Haridas Takur replies that Kanda Kanda hoy deho joy jodi pran tabu ami badane na chari harinam. Even you cut my body into all the little pieces, and I lose my life, I will never give up chanting the holy name. And so in the marketplace, they're taking him and beating him, and the pious people were falling, they're begging, falling at the feet of these guards. These are big, heavy guys, big, with whips and sticks, and they're beating Haridas. And the pious people are falling at their feet. Please beat us instead. How come we, the whole village will be destroyed because of us allowing such a travesty, such an offence to such a devotee in our village? Please beat us instead and let him free. And this went on for the whole day. And then eventually, he's not dying. They're just beating him and beating him, and then becoming exhausted. They're beating him so hard they're becoming exhausted. He's still not dying. Any ordinary person would have died after the beating in the first market. And then they begin very worried. They begin, if we are unable to kill him, then we're going to be killed. So they're speaking to Haridas, why don't you die? Haridas in meditation on the holy name, he says, oh, you want me to die? If you don't die, we'll be killed. Oh, then certainly, then watch me die. Watch me, and he goes into a deep samadhi, which appears like he's dead. And then let's throw his body in the Ganga. So they go, they throw him in the... He was so absorbed in such meditation, they couldn't lift him. They couldn't carry him. So then, eventually Haridas Takur agreed. They went and threw his body in the Ganga. Haridas Takur is completely absorbed in the holy name. He's not even aware of the external crisis that he is going through. And then he comes back to consciousness somewhere here in the Ganga, comes back, and then he comes up. And then again, it was in this area, it wasn't in, because again they saw him, the local people again they saw him, the Qazi, they saw him, he came again. And then they realized what a great soul was Srila Haridas Takur. And then of course, in the humility of Haridas Takur, we're hearing, we can go to Jagannath Puri, humility. Mahaprabhu took sannyas. With him were 4 people when he went to Puri. Nityananda Prabhu, Mukunda Datta, Damodar Pandit, and Chandrasekhar. So then Haridas Takur wasn't there. So Mahaprabhu went to Puri, and then he went on South Indian tour for 2 years. At that time, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Srivas Thakur, all of the intimate devotees, they remained in Mayapur. After the Shantipur festival, then they went back to Mayapur, and only 4 persons accompanied Mahaprabhu. So then for that 2-year period, Mahaprabhu in South India, all the Navadip Vasis are in separation, doing Sankirtan in Mayapur. And then, who comes to the door one day? Kala Krishna Das. Kala Krishna Das, who had accompanied Mahaprabhu on the South Indian tour. He got carried away by the Bhattacharya gypsy women. Mahaprabhu personally rescued him. And when Mahaprabhu came back to Puri, he said, I don't want to keep this fellow around anymore. So then Nityananda Prabhu, he's thinking, how can we give some seva to this Kala Krishna? So they sent him to Navadip with Mahaprasad of Jagannath to tell Sachimata and Advaita Thakur that Gauranga had returned from the South Indian tour, and you can come to Jagannath Puri. So that was the first, that's described in detail, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Veda Kirtan Pastimes, chapter 11. Madhu Lila, the arrival. Gauda Hoite Vaishna, Vashiyat Chindu, Mahaprabhu Bhakti Shab, Mahabhagavata. Gopinathacharya announces to the king of Puri that Gauda Hoite from Bengal, Vaishnav, Ashiyat Chindu, 200 devotees, and they're waiting on the banks of Narendra Sarovar. Mahaprabhu Bhakti Shab, Mahabhagavata. They're all Mahabhagavatas, Mahaprabhu's devotees, as they arrive. So amongst that, and then Kaviraj Goswami, he mentions, it's a very elaborate description of their arrival. And the king sees the kirtan, Ache Mritto, Ache Prem, Ache Hari Dhoni, Kaha Nahi Dekhi, Ache Kaha Nahi Shuni. Such dancing, such love, such chanting of the holy names I've never seen, I've never heard. The king of Puri. Haridas Takur, he was amongst that assembly. And then after arriving, they're coming, they're doing Sankirtan, then they came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu was seeing all the devotees after 2 years, not seeing the Navadip Basis, meeting with them. And then Mahaprabhu says, where is Haridas? Haridas Kotai, where is Haridas? And they said, oh, he's back on the road. He's back, he's still lying down there, back on the road. He's not coming close to you. And then they call, Haridas, why not? If I go close to the temple of Lord Jagannath, then perhaps his servants will touch me. That will be a great offense on my behalf. So I'm not going close to the temple, just in case that happens. So Haridas Thakur never even went close to the Jagannath temple. What to speak of trying to enter the Jagannath temple? Out of genuine humility, thinking that if the Jagannath Shabak, if they touch me, that what an offense I will be, such an offender to the Lord. And then Mahaprabhu, we discussed, so then you give me a place where I can see the chakra on top of the temple. And then he remained, Haridas Thakur, he remained in Jagannath Puri. And at Siddha Bakula. And Mahaprabhu every day after the Mangalarti, he would take the Mahaprasadam and give to Haridas Thakur. And then Haridas Thakur, it appears that in the attempt to go to Vrindavan, when as we mentioned, after 2 years more, he came 2 years tour. He remained in Puri 2 years, and then he was allowed, and Haridas Thakur came at that time. Eventually he gets permission to go to Vrindavan. He comes here to Gaudadesh. All the devotees from Bengal, Haridas Thakur came back here also. Again Shantipur, again Vidyanagar, all the way to Ramkali. Because when Rupa and Sanatan, Adgaratra, in the middle of the night, when they came from their palace, from their residence to see Mahaprabhu in the middle of the night, the first people they met were Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur was accompanying Mahaprabhu to Ramkali in Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Srila Haridas Takur ki Shama Beta Gaur Bhakta Vrindagi Shishinita Gaur Rishidanata Pramanandi Srila Prabhupada. Shall we do kirtan? A few minutes kirtan? We're staying here how much longer? 12:45. An hour. We'll do a few minutes of kirtan in 15 minutes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Okay, so now we have half an hour before we leave here. This is a very important place where Haridas Takur chanted the holy name. Today is the Ekadasi. It's a day in which we have to increase our chanting. So we want all devotees for the next half hour, sit and chant. No talking. Put your handphones away. Turn off your handphones. Put your cameras away, everything. Just get your feet back. Chant the holy name. This is our main business. Take advantage. This is the best place. You couldn't get a better place in the three worlds than here to chant the holy name. So we really have to take advantage. We're so fortunate on this Ekadasi day that we could come. It's so close to Gaur Purnima, and here we are. So take advantage to do some good chanting. Hare Krishna.